Hello and welcome for the second time. If you are returning for the second time here, welcome and thank you for coming back. If this is the first time you are tuning in to watch me today, thanks for taking the time to join me. This is going to be a podcast about knitting and general crafty things here and there when I get around to doing them. My name is Amelia. You can find me on Ravelry as Amelia Armstrong. I am not very active on Ravelry. I am trying to rectify that, especially with the podcast. It is a great place to start a group and put show notes up. So I'm really trying to get on board with being a little better at Ravelry, but mostly you're going to find me on Instagram. And that is where I post pretty much all of my knitting, all of my finished objects, and everything of that nature. You will also find a little bit of my kids on there, and all of my other general craftiness and my lunch making skills. And on Instagram, I am Mama to EKJ, MAMA 2 numeral, Roman numeral 2. EKJ, and I am looking to change that something a little bit more suitable for what I am doing on there, but I am really, really bad with naming things, hence why this podcast is just so simple. My husband came up with Mia Makes because I do make a lot of things. It has only been a week since I last recorded, so I don't have very, very much to show you. The reason for it only being a week is because I was planning on doing a bi-weekly schedule. But next week I am impromptu headed out to Toronto to see my sister and my mom for the weekend. I'm going alone for the first time ever without the kids. So it's going to be a fun little visit for me. But I decided that I would get that out of the way, or get this recorded and out of the way today, because it is going to be quite a busy week for me getting ready for that next week. Today I am wearing my blue sand cardigan. I don't know if you can tell from the picture. It has this lovely, I'm not sure what this stitch is, but I really love it on the sleeves. It also has it down here on the hem. This is one of my favorite projects that I have ever knit. Just such gorgeous details, like this line of blue here in the button band, the short row shaping's gorgeous. The pockets. I don't think Riley Blake from La Maison Riley left out a single detail on this sweater. So although it's one of my favorite sweaters construction-wise, not a fan of the colors I picked when I made this sweater. I loved them at the time, and then after I started knitting it with the tweed, I started to really second guess myself, but I do still wear it often enough that it's kept in my closet. I started to make another one because of not liking the colors. I'm using the Knit Picks Cotton on that. I have the whole body knit. I'm missing the button band and the sleeves on it, and it has been sitting like that in my craft room for probably a year now. And I just have not found the motivation to pick it back up. I screwed up somewhere on the pockets, and the pockets are striped, and the yarn is cut, and I don't know. I can't wrap my head around reknitting those pockets again for the second time. So that is why that is still sitting in my craft room, and maybe I will find the mojo to pick that back up again soon, but right now it's a no-go. Before I move on to the knitting, I just want to show you, because it's one of my favorite things in the world, I have my coffee today in my Canada mug from Starbucks, the You Are Here collection. And yeah, so anyway, I collect these mugs. My husband probably hates it. I have like 40 of them, and he travels a lot for a living, so I make him pick those up everywhere that he goes. The poor man, every layover he has, I'm like, I don't have that mug. But I digress on Starbucks mugs. Let's get into some finished objects today. Now this isn't a very recent finished object, but I showed the hippo for Easter last week, so I figured I would show the hippo for St. Patty's Day. And I know I said I was going to get a sock blocker. I haven't yet. I just haven't found the time to get that done, but this colorway is probably the one that I was looking most forward to when she started introducing these colors. I love green. This is on her everyday sock base. It is 463 yards. I did a 72 stitch plain vanilla sock. I do 20 rows of ribbing for my cuff. I do a 7-inch leg. That is my absolute favorite size leg. I like the shorty socks. I don't tend to wear them that often, but I do really like them, especially the Rose City Roller. I really love how that sock fits. I did my Fish Lips Kiss heel in Fortunate Sun, and I did a contrasting toe. This toe is the vanilla latte, vanilla latte toe. It and the Rose City Roller toe, I pretty much adapt on all of my socks. That is my favorite fitting toe. I have a size 9 foot, 8.5, 9. So I knit from my heel, I knit 7.5 inches, put the toe in. I don't believe the toe is quite 2 inches, but I do like a nice snug fit on my sock, as I discussed last week. But this colorway, this has to be my favorite part here. Oops, I'm sorry. I am still recording on my computer, and the backwards gets me sometimes. I am going to get a new camera, I promise. It's just taking me a little more time than I thought because I'm so busy. But, so, this right here, this lime green and this mossy green are my absolute favorite parts. Excuse me. So, moving on. I'm having a little, my throat. To my second finished object today. This is the one last week that I really wished had been done last week, but unfortunately it wasn't. This is, backwards first of all, my Pure Joy. And I really couldn't, for the longest time when it was all scrunched up on the needles, I really couldn't imagine what it was going to look like all finished. But here it is, and it is, oh, it's magnificent. Hasn't been blocked yet, so pretend it's going to be stretched a little more out at that top edge there. And it is so nice and long. Like, it is long. This is my wingspan, definitely longer than a wingspan. And it is going to be wonderful to wear to church. And when the weather turns, this is knit with Lolo Did It by Lauren, and she has some of my absolute favorite yarn. I'm sure you already know that. I gabbed on about her forever last week, but this is Pretty Little Zombie up here in the top, and then down here in the bottom is Coal Miner's Daughter, and that is also, I'm going to knit something else out of that, and I'll talk about that later. We'll touch on that, but as far as finished objects go, that is pretty much all I have this week because I've been working on some larger projects, so I haven't been getting an awful lot done. Oh, by the way, I'm recording in a different spot today. Recording in my dining room, and I hope this is much better. The lighting is much better in here, so I feel like that's a little better, and I don't have to reach down to the floor because I have a table in here, and I think that that's a lot nicer that I'm not in an off screen for you today. But so I'm gonna move on to my whips. The first whip I'm not gonna get too in depth on because I talked to you about it last week and I don't want to bore you. But this is another hippo. It is my hippo for Valentine's Day. It doesn't look like I got much accomplished on it because I didn't. It is the exact same sock as the hippo for St. Patrick's Day, so I'm not going to go too in depth on it, but basically I got the rest of the foot done, and I am just about to put a toe in, and the toe is going to be this little Lolo in the Wonka color. So that is probably what I'm going to plug away at tonight while we watch Netflix. Because let's turn up on this Friday night. And once again, in my donut bag, I also have today, this is, actually I'll share this one with you. This is in a drawstring bag that I made sans drawstring right now because it fell out and I just haven't put it back in. This was scrap fabric from a quilt that I'd made for my niece for Christmas. And there's the inside. It's got some nice gray chevrons. This is my Disney heroine sock. And I got this yarn at YarnCon in Chicago. And I added in last night this tiger lily stripe. And this seems to be on this sock where I'm stuck. I never ever knit toe up 2 at a time socks. So you can see this is a little crazy for me, but I really wanted these socks to be completely identical since I'm knitting them from little minis. But anyway, I want these socks to be identical. And I am not good at toe up socks, mainly because I never know where to start the heel. So if you have any advice on where to start the heel for a toe up sock, let me know. But see, here is my biggest issue. Like I was saying before, I have a size 9 foot. So you can see that there is the 9. So I always knit to this kid's 13 here, the 7.5 inches before I start my toe. Now the heel is, the Fish Lips kit's heel is 2 inches. So that works out pretty decently for where I think that I'm going to put this heel in and pray that it works. But here is my dilemma that I'm facing. I am at about just over 6.5, 6 3/4 of an inch on this sock. I don't want to put another color in all the way because then it'll be longer than I need it to be to put the heel in. And I don't think that if I use one color and then start the heel that it's going to be enough of that color. And I really don't want to split up the stripes. So I'm completely stuck. I'm thinking maybe that I will start another stripe and just put in an afterthought heel and try and do my best to split the stripe. And if the foot does have to stretch a little more, then I guess it has to stretch a little more. They already are a little bit big, so I think they might be house socks, but I am totally stuck on that. So I think that these socks are going to go into timeout for a little bit, but my son picked the next colorway, and so I'm about to wind that up into 2 little balls, and it is going, I believe that this one is Mulan. So I'm going to either get that in for the heel, the next stripe, or I think I might just put a gray heel in and call it a day and not try and worry about getting the stripes perfect and just put in a gray afterthought heel and then really just showcase the princesses for the stripes. But we'll just keep him in timeout for a little bit longer. Excuse me. Also, I don't know if you can hear that. I can hear it. It's really loud. My husband is stump grinding today. Perfect day for it. I didn't know he was stump grinding today. But we moved into this house last year and it was the jungle out there. I feel bad talking about them because they just bought the house next door, but I don't know what they did. They put in beautiful plants. I'll give them that. They had gorgeous pink knockout roses. They had gorgeous hydrangeas, but they were everywhere. We had no lawn left. They took over the entire lawn. So literally all last summer we were cutting things down with chainsaws. And now we are left with like 50 stumps, and my husband is trying so desperately to get a lawn back by at least June of this year so that we can start planting our own gardens. And so we're basically starting from scratch. We're getting it, after all these stumps get ground, we're getting a dump truck in here with some topsoil, and fill them in, but if you can hear that, that's what it is. We don't have very long on the rental, so I very well can ask him to stop for the next half hour. So I'm just going to try and deal with it, but like I said, I don't have very much to talk about today, so we'll probably be done fairly quickly today. So this is my next whip, and it is a brand new one. I cast this on May 1st because this is going to be my May sock. And I know it is totally, I don't know if the camera is catching the colors on this, but this is totally not my traditional themed sock that I do every month. I have HIPPO for Cinco, and that was what was going to be my May sock, but then she came out with HIPPO for Mother's Day today, and I couldn't decide. So what I decided on my May sock is, this is Oi with the Poodles already, and if you are a Gilmore's fan, you will know what that is a reference to. This is by the wonderful dyer over at Nomadic Yarns, Ashley. She has the most amazing stripes, and I lust after all of them. But this is an 8 stripe, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 stripe. I haven't quite figured out what all of the colors are for. I know what a couple of them are for. Obviously, we have some coffee in here. We have the Chilton blue and the avocado green. I love it. But so this is going to be my May sock for Sock Bash 2017 with the Grocery Girls, and I am also going to enter this into my box of socks and free all the house elves over there with Amber. I am double dipping to the extreme in all the knit-alongs. I am making this on my 8-inch circular. This is actually the second time I've knit this sock. I had started it. I did the cuff on the 8-inch circular with this one, or circular, when I started this one. And I don't, maybe I was just knitting too tight, but it was not working for me. The cuff came this big. It did stretch, and I could get it on, but it just wasn't going to work for me. But anyway, it is the same. It is a 72 stitch sock on an 8-inch size 1. So what I did was I took it out, and I realized that when I took it off the needle, it was going to fit. I just wasn't a fan of the fabric that it was creating. So I did this on magic loop. I always keep a size 1 magic loop empty, because when I do knit on my 8-inch circulars, which I really enjoy when I'm in the car and when I'm flying, because I'm going to be flying next week, you don't have to whip out the needle for the magic loop. My husband hates when I do that. He's terrified I'm gonna get him in the face with it. And I'm sure people sitting beside me on a plane also don't like that. But I do keep it in because I do the heels, the toes, and the cuffs on this, and then I transfer this over for the mindless knitting and just the portability of it. A lot of people don't like the 8 or 9-inch circular. I love them. I use the Xiaogu ones. It's the only one I've used, but I have heard people say the 8-inch on the Addy it's not their favorite, and the Haya aren't the greatest either. They don't have the Xiaogu seems to have a longer actual needle in it before the cord starts. So I believe that is why people prefer them. I have not tried the other ones, so I don't really have an opinion on them. But anyhow, that is what I'm working on for May, and I'm super excited about it. The reason I did pick that as my May sock is because I decided to start watching the Gilmore Girls from the beginning over again. And it is just so much fun knitting this sock while I'm watching the Gilmore Girls, and it is living in a Christmas bag. I know it's Christmas bag, but it has coffee on it, and they are the Gilmore Girls. So if you know anything about the Gilmore Girls, you know that coffee is a huge part of that show. So there's that, and that one is probably my favorite whip right now. There is something about a self-striping sock. I don't know. I think every knitter loves a self-striping sock. It is so much fun to watch the colors build. It's so easy to just say one more stripe, one more stripe, one more stripe, and then the socks are completely done and they go so fast, but they are probably one of my favorite things to work on, and thankfully my kids, my husband love self-striping socks, so I get to knit on those an awful lot. So, without further ado, this is like my favorite whip that I've been working on. It's also the most stressful thing I've been working on, which is really funny because as much as this sweater that I'm working on should have stressed me the crap right out, it's not. I'm still loving every minute of it. I wasn't when I was like almost having a breakdown the other day, but now it's not so bad. This is living in my, This is living in my Bags by Awesome Granny bag. This is one of my all-time favorite bags because can you just look at these beavers? They're amazing. This is also a bag that's not so big. This is our medium size one, I believe. It holds so much yarn. So I have my sweater in here. I don't think it's going to be big enough. The bag's going to be big enough for the whole sweater. But let me tell you about this sweater. This is my pavement sweater. It's pretty much half done. It is a pattern by VEERA VALIMAKI. If I'm saying that incorrectly, I am so sorry. But this sweater is so lovely, so simple, and so wonderful. Now, for the stressful part, because nothing about this is really stressful. The drape of this fabric, the gauge, how light and soft it is. This yarn is by the Lemonade Shop, and it is called Sweatpants, so it's just a great colorway. It kind of, oddly enough, reminds me of my hippos, and I don't know if my camera is picking up on how wonderfully neon those speckles are, but they are. So anyway, like I said, on to the stressful part. I knit the top of this sweater probably 3 times. The first time I was knitting it was late at night. And these increases here, because of the garter at the top, the increases had almost like a double ladder for the make ones. And I picked up the wrong ladder on the first stitch. And it was a mistake that I couldn't take back and I couldn't ignore. And so the first rip out was like, whatever, I want my sweater to be perfect. So anyway, I ripped it out and I knit it again. The second time, I was getting the increases right the rest of the way down. I couldn't remember what ladder I was picking up. So I must have tinked back, tore out, like I can't count how many times. And then finally I started breathing, like I took a break, breathed, started it again. So, and I don't know if it's because I was super, super stressed, but I got down to about here. And you can tell just by the way the color is going, this is all the same ball of yarn. I know, I'm not alternating the skeins because the skeins are so perfectly dyed, I don't feel like I have to. And I'll probably kick myself for that later too, don't worry. But this is all from the same ball of yarn. So if you can tell how close together the speckles are up here, but not down here. I stopped getting gauge. So I decided just to switch to a higher needle. And then I was getting gauge and I was all excited. And then I tried it on and it felt great. It felt like it fit. So I just kept knitting. And then I was sending a picture to my friend and I noticed, wow, the shoulders are really looking stretched on that picture. So like the obsessive perfectionist I am, I went into Ravelry I started scanning everybody's project pages who's ever made this, trying to find Instagram pictures of people wearing it to see if their shoulders were completely stretched out the way that mine were. They weren't. So I kept knitting, and then I kept thinking about it, and then so I tried it on. I literally only have 8 inches left of the body to knit on this. Tried it on again. It's not gonna work. I just looked at, I do have much bigger shoulders than most people my size. Like, I'm knitting the size small, but I have large shoulders because I work out a lot and I lift a lot of weights. And it's not gonna work. Like, the armpit was just coming up like so high in, and I just knew that when I picked up the stitches for the sleeves, since they started up here, there wasn't gonna be enough room. So I kept it in for last night, even though I really, really wanted to rip it out and start again. But I really wanted to show you and talk about it. So that is coming out this afternoon, and it is being started again. But I will show you the yarn all caked up. Here is 2. Do you see what I mean? They're perfect. They are, there's no need, I see this now, there's no need to alternate these skeins, but, and look at this. This is all I have left of the first one, and I'm ripping it out. Oh, I am so sad, but that's just the way it has to be. Now, if you just bear with me, I have an acquisition that I forgot to bring in here, so I'm gonna run get that, and hopefully I can edit this out. If I can't edit that out, I'm gonna apologize right now profusely, because I suck at editing these things. I couldn't figure it out for the life of me last week. I recorded in the photo booth thing. I couldn't get it into iMovie to save my life. So today I'm recording in iMovie, and hopefully that is what makes me able to get it into iMovie. But more hippos. This is Hippo for Cinco de Mayo by Lauren, over at Lolo Did It. She's my favorite. This one, it's got pink, it's got this rich dark green, it's got my favorite limey chartreusey green. If I'm not mistaken, there's a little bit of red in here. And to go with it, I got, ow, I feel good, a little Lolo here. And yes, I don't know if you can catch the brightness on this, but I am so super excited to knit these up when I finally do. Today is Cinco de Mayo. Maybe I'll cast those on tonight for a little bit of an extra project, but so far no real plans for that, but I'm really excited about it, and the rest of the hippos for that matter. And I'm going to move on to, I think, I don't know if I'm going to keep the last segment the same all the time, but today I'm going to talk about some dream knitting because I do have a fair amount of it. I don't have very many acquisitions today because I do have some larger yarn purchases coming in the mail. And so the first larger purchase I have coming in the mail is I got a Sew Faded kit. I was trying so desperately, and my poor friends who I sent them 800 pictures to, trying to put together something from my stash and make it work, and it just wasn't. I'm sorry, because I ended up just buying a kit anyway. But I bought the Sew Faded sweater kit from, I should have wrote this down, HULOCO. And I bought the Andrea's pick, and I'm so super excited about that. So that is my first dream knitting, because I am super excited to knit the Sew Faded sweater. And for that matter, I really want to knit the Sew Faded, not Sew Faded, the Find Your Fade shawl. I am not good at picking out colors. I am the most completely indecisive person in the entire world. So if I could ever pick out 7 colors. I couldn't pick out 3. So if I can ever pick out 7 colors, that is definitely something that is going to be coming in my future. Also, for dream knitting, my husband has asked, and that's why I said I was going to knit out of the Coal Miner's Daughter. My husband has asked me for a flax light, which is going to be an undertaking. He is not he's not a large man, but he's not a slight man. He's very muscular and muscular built, so that will be an undertaking. It'll probably be a medium or a large flax light. And as soon as he saw the Coal Miner's Daughter go into my pure joy, he said, so how much of that yarn would it take to make a sweater? I said, did you want a sweater? And he said, yeah, I want the sweater you're knitting, James. And I am making my son, who's 4, so it's not quite as much of an undertaking, the Flax Light by Tin Can Knits. And so I am making my husband and I'm going to, this is a dream knit. I haven't purchased the yarn yet, which is going to be quite a quantity. I'm going to purchase the Coal Miner's Daughter from LOLO Did It to make a flax light for my husband and my son. And then all my kids asked for socks last week, and I'm having a really hard time with the balance of this because I'm a selfish knitter, and I'll be the first to admit it. All the socks I knit are for myself, pretty much. I love my sock drawer. I love to wear my socks, and I love to knit them for myself. And I do love to knit myself an awful lot of garments. So I now have a list of like 3 garments plus 2 for somebody else. And then my daughter asked me for a pair of socks the other day, and my oldest daughter always wants socks. So there is some more dream knitting for me. But other than that, I might as well keep this short and sweet. I don't have too much else to talk about today knitting-wise because I was so tunnel-visioned, obsessively knitting on my pavement sweater. I just didn't find much time to get much else done or bought, and now I get to start it all over again. So hopefully I'll get a lot done on the plane ride, and they won't take my needles because it's an international flight, unfortunately, to Canada. And then we will get that done for you. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to sit here with me and gab about knitting. Please leave any questions and comments that you have down in the comment section for anything I can improve upon or anything that you'd like to know. Bye!